bringing Ralph Macchio. Daniel's son, Karate Kid. Yeah, I fought the good fight for you, Ralph, yesterday. I'm exhausted.
You did. You must be exhausted.
Is it a sports movie?
Is it a sports movie? It's a great question. I think it is a sports movie. It certainly is a coming-of-age film and other elements as well. I mean, it's interesting. Sports Illustrated about a year ago, so here's an endorsement, called me and asked if I would write their point-after piece for about being frozen in time, because they considered Karate Kid one of the seminal sports movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote this piece, sort of equivalating myself to being sort of iconic in that role in the way, so like you remember Jim Craig wrapped in the American flag, or Joe Montana throwing that pass to Dwight Clark in the end zone, and we sort of came up with this concept of based on that. So the fact that Sports Illustrated called me to do that, I thought, I think that might be an endorsement that some others out there think it's a sports movie. Interesting you mentioned, Rocky, which is directed by John Avildsen, who directed the Karate Kid films. At least the ones I was in, and he always said that no matter how similar these two films are, he always considered Rocky a love story at its base, and the Karate Kid a surrogate father-son coming-of-age story at its base. So the fact that there's sports and there's training within building up to something in the end became secondary, but. So if you consider Rocky a sports movie, I guess you could argue strongly that Karate Kid is a sports movie, since there is competition, training, and an end, building to a climax where there's some form of competition and sport competition that someone would win. But I think it is far deeper than that. I guess that's my ramble on it. What do you think?
I think it's a sports movie. I think it's more of a sports movie than Rocky is. I think Rocky is a love story. I think it's because people look at karate different than they do with other sports. So I think that's probably what holds people back from saying, it's a sports movie.
Right, because it's not one of the main like Rudy is clearly a sports movie. I guess Bull Durham is certainly a sports movie. Field of Dreams, less a sports movie.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Who did you audition against for Karate Kid? Is it true Charlie Sheen was up for that role?
I think Charlie was definitely around when I was walking in and out of it. He was definitely around. I know Robert Downey Jr. at one point was as well. Actually, Robert Downey Jr. Back when I got the role in The Outsiders, he actually did a workshop of The Outsiders playing the Johnny character that I eventually got in the movie. So now I constantly, anytime I see him, ask if we could trade off at this point.
I think that your physique, or lack thereof, helped you get the role.
Yes, because that's a very well said and pointed, because here's the thing. I believe that character, that Daniel Larusso character, who is 30 years old right now, that film is 30 years old right now. It's just unbelievable. But he was the every kid next door. He had no business winning anything. And I think that's what was so relatable to all of us, and a piece of everyone's childhood of feeling like that, a little fish out of water, certainly in a on the West Coast, being an East Coast kid, but more so, he was a 98-pound weakling with a little bit of an East Coast bravado that led him into trouble, and I think that was the relatability. He was not, the ninja warrior that went up against everyone who was blonde in Malibu.
Did you date Elizabeth Shue in real life?
See, these are the answers that I always disappoint with. We did go see a movie together at one point.
Well, that's close enough. That's a date.
Close enough. I say yes, that's a date. But I don't have. I don't. I would say no, but everybody draws their own. I would say definitely. We did not date, but we definitely had some social time together. And she's a terrific actress. He's
Ralph Macchio, the actor, Karate Kid. The Karate Kid is 30 years old. I think turned 30 in June.
Yes, June 22nd. They're actually screening it in Bryant Park in Manhattan this Monday night. I think that's kind of...
Are you going?
there's a piece of me that just wants to go around and like just be looking through garbage and seeing what I actually am going to be in the city, so be on the lookout. I have no idea. It would be kind of cool and on the bucket list to sort of see it on the screen, and hopefully there's more than 10 people sitting on the lawn.
Did you keep any memorabilia from Karate Kid? The bandana?
I did. I have the bandana. There were a couple of them, but I have one of the hero ones. And I have the trophy, which is in my son's room right now.
The All Valley Championship?
All Valley Karate. Hey, there's only one.
Would you do me a favor, Ralph? Would you take a picture of that and text that to us?
Okay, great. I'll do that.
Yeah,
I'll do that. Yeah. And I have the what I can't show you right now is I have the wax on, wax off car, the yellow 47 Ford convertible. But it is not looking like it did back then. It's sort of the white elephant on four flats. I'm trying not to make it a metaphor for my big major motion picture career, although because I still am working and active, but albeit not in the next Harry Potter movie. But I will say I do have that car, and someday we'll get that up and running again.
What did your kids think when they first? How old were they when they first saw you in Karate Kid?
My daughter was probably about 5. I was doing a national tour of a show called How to Succeed in Business. Matthew Broderick did the show on Broadway, and I did the national tour of it. This was like 97, 96, and they'd always have these openings every town in Planet Hollywoods, which were big back then. And occasionally my 5-year-old daughter and my son after that would see, this memorabilia and like, why is everyone doing this weird standing on one leg thing every time they see Daddy? Or telling him to, giving him chopsticks and say, go after that insect now. And so it was, I showed them the film probably when they were about 5 years old. And, my daughter at that age kept, running out of the room and crying because they were beating up her father. Now she takes great pleasure in watching it.
Did you get along with everybody? I mean, those
guys,
for
the most part.
Did they rough you up, the bad guys?
They did. Like we alluded to before, the 98-pound weakling, that every kick that connected did hurt. They were the Cobra Kai guys. They were listen. They were really, really good about it. I did get tagged once by William Zabka, the perennial '80s badass.
He was great
right
as a
in the
villain.
Jaw.
He was a great villain, Ralph.
He's a great villain.
And it stayed with him. I think people look at him as still that guy.
Right. Well, listen, you carry that when you play, when you convincingly play a character that becomes part of pop culture, it's very tough to shake that. And I think as you get older, at least for me, from my standpoint of being associated with a character like that, I embrace it more as I get older because you realize how fleeting and how a gazillion to one it is to have that opportunity. But yeah, it makes things challenging. He's nicest guy, but he definitely would kick my ass any given day.
Tell me something
back then and probably today. But I got along with everyone, and obviously Pat Morita at that point was he and I had that one of those pieces of cinema magic that happens only once in a while.
Tell me something about the movie I've never heard before.
I always joke that Pat Morita was 6'2", and they just have to build trenches all the time. Anytime we were walking together, I don't have an. It's tough. I've been asked that question now for 30 years.
Were there any scenes though, Ralph, that were cut? Was there anything that you did that almost made the movie?
I will say one thing. This is. I don't know if this. This has been out there before, but I always find it so fascinating that the studio wanted to cut the big Miyagi drunk scene when he talks about his wife and dying of child, wife and child passing away, and all this backstory of Miyagi and his sort of pain, and where the sort of kid becomes the mentor to the old man, and it's the transitions. One of my favorite transitions in the movie. The studio and the editor was just begging that it stop the story, and it needed to go. And they were right when you look at it on paper that at that point of a movie you shouldn't stop for 7 to 8 minutes and just start talking when everybody's waiting for the fight. But I think it separates, First of all, it was, as Pat Morita would say back in the day, that was his Academy Award nomination scene, and you could argue that's partly true.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing that, and then they did a few test screenings, and everybody shut up really quick. The other thing is that I can tell you this much: they spent a ton trying to figure out. They had an idea with this scene where Miyagi teaches LaRusso how to punch. That's the whole thing. When am I going to learn how to punch? When am I going to learn how to punch? And then they had this whole sequence with this electronic. It wasn't going to be electronic. It was supposed to look like it was bamboo and like strings of this Mr. Hashimoto character, or this machine that Miyagi had that would teach LaRusso how to punch. And they spent tons and tons with different effects departments trying to figure out how to do this. And at the end of the day, we just did this one scene where they threw him in a baseball mask and a chest protector, and I just danced around like Ali, and that was the scene. I'm winging it here, trying to get stuff, But those are little pieces I could give you.
Well, congrats on 30 years, and we'd love to have you in studio at some point.
Oh, one of these days I would love it.
Yeah.
One of these days I would love it. I'm a sports fan all the way around, and it's
can we sweep the leg, though? That's all I want to know.
Can you sweep my leg? Well, probably easier now than you could have 30 years ago.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it'll be easy to sweep the leg. It's amazing how that is all part of the American lexicon these days.
But I think, okay, what's more important, wax on, wax off, sweep the leg, or get him a body bag?
I know, there's three good ones.
Which one do you like?
Which one do I hear the most?
Yeah.
It's close these days. I think wax on, wax off, if you take the curve of the 3 decades, I think wax on, wax off prevails.
And none of those were your lines.
And I did, I did my wax on, F off, Funny or Die video, which was a take on, which I know you guys have commented on in the past.
Yes.
And which I love. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And so that's, sweep the leg, put them in a body bag. I guess, it's interesting. I played the hero in the picture, and I don't have any of the good lines.
I know.
None of them.
Yeah, but you got the girl and the trophy, so stop complaining.
I got the girl and the trophy.
Now, take a picture of that and text that to Fritzy. I want to put it up on the website.
Okay, I'll have someone email me the where to send it.
Yeah, yes. Well, you know what? We'll put you on hold. Fritzy will.
Great. Have him give it to me now.
Thank you, Ralph.
You got it, man.
That's Ralph Macchio.